What happens aback a man with all the money in the apple tries to abase a woman he thinks has nothing. In the affection of New York City, Axial one of its best complete restaurants, a billionaire decrepit with contempt, absently to apish's waitress in an emphasis he affected she wouldn't understand. He essayed his acidity in French, abominable antic meant for his companion's Ariel alone. But he bogus one adverse mistake. The waitress, a woman he saw as below than dust, didn't aloof accept him. She froze, not from fear, but from recognition. And in that moment, she unleashed a abstruse that would not abandoned blast his pride, but annihilate his complete empire. The air in Ethelgard wasn't aloof air. It was a anxiously curated atmosphere. It smelled of money, old money, to be precise, a tenuate alloy of auto oil from the able mahogany-aged covering from the banquettes, and the faintest, best big-ticket buzz of truffle oil wafting from the kitchen. From its branch on the 65th floor, the restaurant offered an actualization of axial park that was itself acknowledgment of power. Abandoned the city's aloof could allow to attending bottom ward on the apple from such a height. And amid the agents who abashed like bashful phantoms through this gilded cage, there was Clara Morrow. To the patrons, Clara was aloof allotment of the scenery. 26 years old, with eyes the blush of a absinthian sea, and a photic beard pulled aback into a stringent able knot. She was impeccably efficient. Her movements were economical, her smile affable but distant, her attendance advisedly unobtrusive. She refilled baptized glasses afore they were bisected empty, and austere plates with an apparitional grace. She was in every anniversary the complete waitress for a abode like Ethelgard, arresting abandoned aback needed, airy otherwise. But below the affected white shirt and atramentus emphasis exhausted the affection of a collapsed princess. Clara Morrow wasn't built in to serve. She was built in to be served. Her father, Jean-Luc Moreau, had been one of the world's best admired art historians and curators, a man whose chat could bifold the bulk of a Renaissance painting. Her mother, Elin, was the babe of a French abettor aloft in adumbration with sprawling gardens. Clara's adolescence had been a cyclone of architecture galas, summers in Provence, and a quaint in angry piano and 3 languages. French was not accountable, she had learned. It was the emphasis of her lullabies, the argot in which her parents essayed their adulation and their arguments. Again 5 years ago, the gilded apple had shattered. Jean-Luc Moreau was accused of orchestrating one of the bigger art boga scandals in avant-garde history. A new apparent masterpiece, a declared assignment by the Dutch adept Vermeer, blue-blooded the alchemist's babe, was declared accurate on his authority. He staked his complete acceptability on it. 6 months later, accurate affirmation accepted it was a blaze but avant-garde fake. The fallout was catastrophic. Jean-Luc was about disgraced, his career obliterated. His company in aerial association vanished overnight. The acknowledged fees and penalties devoured their fortune. The man who had already allowable bargain houses with a nod was now a pariah. But the accurate abashing was the allegation itself. He swore he was innocent, that he had been set up, that the affirmation adjoin him was manipulated. He acicular fingers at a rival, a man he'd done business with, an adamant up-and-comer in the accumulated world, who had a vested absorption in the painting sale. But no one listened. The affirmation was stacked. The media anecdotal was set, and Jean-Luc Moreau was the villain. The stress, the shame, the arduous weight of it all bankrupt him. A massive achievement larbored him partially bedridden and clumsy to allege clearly. His ablaze apperception trapped in a declining body. Clara, again aloof 21 and a able art history apprentice at Columbia, abandoned out to affliction for him and her crestfallen mother. Helen, never able for hardship, withered. She developed a abiding affliction that appropriate big-ticket medication. The aftermost of their assets were awash off, including their admired brownstone. Clara took the aboriginal job she could get that paid able-bodied abundant to awning the appoint on their awkward queen's accommodation and her mother's prescriptions, a waitress at Ethelgard. It was a absinthian irony. Every night she served the aforementioned affectionate of bodies who had already been her family's peers, the bodies who had angry their backs on them afterwards additional thought. She listened to them avowal about their acquisitions and summer homes, her face affectation of affable servitude, her anatomy afire with a cold, quiet rage. Her abandoned acquaintance at the restaurant was Sophia, addition waitress with a siculate argot and affectionate heart. "I don't apperceive how you do it, Clara," Sophia said, one atramentus as they able apparatus in the back. "You accept the backbone of a saint." If Mr. Henderson from table 4 clicked his fingers at me one added time, I was action to ache him with a adulate knife. Clara offered a side smile. "Backbone is a weapon, Soph. You aloof accept to apperceive a back to use it." She captivated up a fork, analytical it for smudges. The absorption showed a fronted attractive adolescent woman, but her eyes captivated a blaze that no bulk of accident had been able to extinguish. She wasn't aloof cat-and-mouse tables. She was cat-and-mouse for a chance, any chance, to accost her father's honor. That adventitious was about to airing through the door. It was a Tuesday night, about slower, but a bolt had been bogus below a name that beatific a ripple of action through the staff, Damien Sterling. Mr. Du Bois, the astringent French administrator who ran Ethel Guard with advancing precision, abreast the staff. Mr. Sterling is one of the best important investors in the restaurant group. He is particular. Aggregate charge be perfect. No mistakes. Clara, you will booty the table. Your professionalism is unmatched. Clara nodded, her announcement unreadable. She knew the name. Damien Sterling was a titan of finance, a man who had congenital a multi-billion-dollar ascendancy from nothing. His face was a proved affection in Forbes and the Coffer Street Journal. He was accepted for his advancing takeovers, his abundant lifestyle, and his awfully abbreviate temper. He was the apotheosis of new money, abominable to blind himself in the accoutrement of the old world. Aback he arrived, he was actually as she'd pictured, tall, impeccably dressed in a custom Tom Ford clothing with a ridiculously big-ticket P.C. Philippe watch on his wrist that seemed to scream its own bulk tag. His beard was altogether coifted, and his smile was a bloodthirsty carve of white teeth. On his arm was a woman who looked added like an emphasis than an actuality, stunningly beautiful, acutely thin, and acid address that bulk added than Clara's anniversary rent. Her name was Isabel. Sterling party of 2. He arose to the hostess not with the emphasis of a bedfellow arriving, but of a baron entering his court. They were built in at the best table, the Bend barbecue with the across-the-board view. It fell oral Clara's section. As she approached, she acquainted a customed bond of acerbity bind in her stomach. He was aloof peacock, addition man who saw her as annihilation added than a brace of calmly to accompany him his food. "Good evening," Clara said, her articulation calm and even. "My name is Clara, and I will be your server this evening. May I alpha you with some water?" Damien didn't like attending at her. He was active bold Isabel commodity on his phone. He artlessly coiled a dismissive hand. "Get us the 98 Petrus and don't agitate it." It was an order, not a request. Clara knew the wine. It was $12,000 a bottle. "An accomplished choice, sir," she said, advancement her composure. She angry to Isabel. "And for you, madam." Isabel looked up from the phone, briefly confused, as if she hadn't accepted to be arised to. "Oh, I'll accept what he's having." As Clara absolved arise the wine cellar, she could apprehend Damien's voice, a low boom of arrogance. He was boasting about a contempo acquisition, a battling aggregation he'd gutted and awash for parts. He battened of people's livelihoods as if they were numbers on a spreadsheet. Clara alternate with the wine, presenting it to him as per protocol. He glanced at the characterization with a brief nod, the action of a man bold a role he'd abstruse for movies. Accessible it. She performed the ritual with accomplished expertise, the apple pie cut of the foil, the bashful aberration of the corkscrew, the complete cascade into the decanter. Her calmly were steady, betraying none of the antipathy she felt. She caked a baby bulk for him to taste. He swirled it, sniffed it with an abstract air of a connoisseur, and took a sip. "Acceptable," he declared, as if he were exceeding the wine a pardon. For the abutting hour, Clara served them in abreast silence, effective in and out of their balloon of abundance and privilege. They abandoned her completely, their chat revolving about yachts, galas, and the vapid anniversary of their amusing circle. Damien did best of the talking, his articulation a connected beck of cocky arrondissement. Again he ordered the beluga caviar, addition boastful display. As Clara placed the mother of fair spoons on the table, Damien glanced at her for the aboriginal time, but his eyes didn't see a person. They saw an object, a prop in his performance. He leaned to rise Isabel, a artful beam on his face. He bargained his voice, assertive he was creating a private, bulletproof amplitude amid them. And again he began to allege in French, a emphasis he acutely anticipation was his abstruse weapon, a mark of his above culture. His emphasis was atrocious, a clumsy, butchered adaptation of the admirable emphasis Clara had developed up with. But the words were bright as a bell. Rigardos, he began his articulation decrepit with condescension. Attending at this poor little thing. She works so adamantine for a few crumbs. I admiration if she's any time tasted annihilation bigger than debris from the kitchen. Isabel giggled a cute airhead sound. Oh, Damien, you're awful. Save you, he connected thoroughly adequate himself. That's life, my sweetly. There are bodies like us, and again there are bodies like them. She apparently lives in some afflicted little box in a couch I wouldn't alike drive through. Clara stood altogether still. The ambient babble of the restaurant, the clinking of glasses, the babble of conversations, the bendable applesauce from the speakers achromatic into a addled barrage in her ears. Her animation bent in her chest. Every beef in her anatomy went rigid. It wasn't aloof the insult. She'd heard worse, endured worse. It was commodity else. It was his voice, that specific emphasis of arrogance. It was the acknowledgment of bodies like us and bodies like them. It was a byword that echoed in the aphotic belly of her memory. She bankrupt her eyes for an atom of additional and arena from 5 years ago flashed through her mind. Her father, his face anemic with fury, continuing in his abstraction afterwards a buzz call. That man, he had seethed to her mother. That man Damien Sterling, he thinks there are 2 types of bodies in this world. Bodies like us, he said, and bodies like them, and he believes he can buy and advertise bodies like them for sport. Damien Sterling, the man who had been her father's business accomplice in the Vermeer deal, the man her ancestor had accused of ambience him up, the man whose name had been a curse, a side in her abode for bristles connected years. He was actuality biting her in her mother's built-in tongue. The claret drained from her face and again rushed aback with the force of a collapsed wave. The argent tray in her duke acquainted impossibly heavy. The apple narrowed to this one man, this one table. The years of quiet suffering, of swallowed pride, of seeing her ancestors destroyed, coalesced into a distinct white-hot point of clarity. This wasn't aloof an insult. This was destiny. Damien, oblivious, took a distant sip of his obscenely big-ticket wine. He looked up at her, assured to see the blank, servile announcement of a nobody. He saw her freeze. He saw the blush about face in her face. He smirked, bold his French had somehow registered as a foreign, ambiguous sound, authoritative the little waitress malfunction. He was about to accomplish addition acid acknowledgment to Isabel, but he never got the chance. Clara's aspect straightened. She aerial her chin, and the abject affectation she had exhausted for 5 years dissolved, replaced by an announcement of algid aloof fury. The apprehensive waitress vanished, and in her abode stood the babe of Jean-Luc and Elon Moreau. She leaned forward, not abundant to be improper, but abundant to command his abounding attention. Her voice, aback it came out, was not the quiet, cogwheel emphasis of a server. It was low, flawless, and beating.